Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 21 Days of Business. If this is the first time that you're catching this video series, welcome. My name is Yasmin Salem-Hamden. I'm the founder of coachesandcompany.com. We are your go-to digital destination for all things legal in your entrepreneurial journey. And all through the month of November, we're going to be sharing interviews with our guest experts each day, answering your questions about your business. And today I'm really excited to have this conversation with our guest, Victoria Saperstein. Victoria is a professional photographer with experience in brand photography. Hi, Victoria.
Hi, how are everything?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited that you're here.
No, I'm
Yes.
excited. I'm so excited to get your email and just be like, oh my God, yeah, I would love to be part of
Yes,
that.
yes, absolutely. So you might be wondering, what does photography have to do with business? And the answer is a whole lot. All right. So if you're building a brand, photography is very important. Visual assets are very important. You might be aware of that at this point. And if not, you're going to learn a lot today from our guest. And that's really something I'm so excited to share with you through Victoria and Victoria's experience in brand photography and personal brand photography, as well as how you can go about planning for and preparing for your first or next brand photo shoot. So thank you again, Victoria, for joining me. For those that are not familiar with you, if you would please share an introduction.
Yeah, I'm Victoria Saperstein, currently based in Dallas, actually from New York. I moved to Dallas about a year and a half ago. So I focus on dynamic, personality-driven brand photography for mainly women entrepreneurs, content creators, and then purpose-driven brands. So I work with a lot of like lifestyle fashion brands in addition to personal brands.
I love it. I love it. Yes. And would you mind sharing with our audience what makes brand photography unique? Why is that different than standard photography?
Yeah, like a lot of times photographers are focusing on like portraits, so like families, couples, senior photography, which is big down here in Dallas. But brand photography is really about like the storytelling and making, I feel like it's like what makes you unique and what makes you stands out. So it's kind of connecting you with your audience on a deeper level and really like pinpointed to who you are as a business owner, an entrepreneur.
I love it. So when you're preparing for your first photo shoot, what tips do you have for our listeners?
Yeah, of course. So I feel like number one is kind of researching photographers, figuring out what style you're kind of leaning towards more, and hopping on a discovery call. So a lot of photographers offer discovery calls, and that's my favorite way to connect with new clients to kind of ask about who they are. They can ask me questions about my process when it comes to photo shoots and that planning process. So number one is just kind of researching photographers in the area. Kind of like you're kind of interviewing them in a way, right? So I get in discovery calls and I'm asking clients questions, but they're also asking me questions. So it's a very collaborative experience. Number two is to kind of just prepare. Preparation is huge when it comes to your brand photo shoot. So it's kind of asking yourself, like, where are the images going to be used? Like, are going to be on my website banner, so they need to be horizontal. My about page, I obviously need on social media. And so it's like kind of working backwards in terms of like, okay, so these are where the images are going to be living, and this is the type of photos that I need. Also, kind of what makes you unique, who inspires you, if you know like other creators or if you like a certain like kind of style, anything you can provide to your photographer is super helpful from the start. What images are you looking for? And if you want, it makes you feel more confident, eliminate stress, like hiring a makeup and hairstylist, hiring an actual like stylist to help you with outfits. And number three is just kind of like the day before. I guess that's a whole other thing, but it's like steaming all outfits, packing accordingly. I always tell my clients to kind of pack your outfits like on one hanger with the accessories, writing it out, getting like down to the details. Like, okay, I'm going to be wearing this white sweater with these drop down earrings, and like, or even taking photos of each outfit. So day of the shoot, you know exactly, you know, what next outfit you're kind of like changing into. And just giving yourself enough time for the hair and makeup if you are hiring someone. There's a lot of times where clients are like kind of rushing and they're like, oh my God, like I'm running late. So just making sure that you're setting yourself up for success and giving yourself enough time to like relax and really enjoy the process. Because if you are like kind of frantic and rushing, it can show in photos. And so you just want to make sure you're giving yourself enough time to like thoroughly prepare for your brand photo shoot.
I love that
Yeah,
idea
that was a
actually
lot,
of
but yeah.
preparing. Oh, all of that was so good. And I love the idea of preparing every outfit and I guess not necessarily, I don't know if shot is the right term, but like setting that you're planning. So this will be one setting. We're going to do it in this area. I'm going to be wearing this. Maybe this will be the indoor outfit. This is an outdoor outfit.
Right.
And getting down to the jewelry and the accessories, the shoes, being very clear on that so that you're not winging it. You don't want to be winging it the day of, right?
Yeah,
It sounds like it
exactly.
shows.
And also a lot of clients ask, like, what do you recommend wearing? Is there anything like specific or like that looks better on camera? And me personally, I'm like, I rather have you wear something that you love and feel confident in versus getting like a new outfit that's like might be tighter than you're used to or looser than you're used to, and then
Yeah.
you're like kind of like tugging and you're not really
Just
comfortable.
look uncomfortable.
Yeah, and so my number one thing is like honestly just be like authentic and be who you are, and you don't have to like overthink it either. Like sometimes like a stylist can help in terms of just putting together outfits if that's not your specialty. But if you're like super quirky and super fun and want like loud patterns, I'm never going to tell you not to wear those loud patterns,
Yeah.
because you know sometimes you hear like, oh, only wear solids or only wear this and that. And I think for like headshots or more of like the classic pose, then like maybe a solid is better. But if it comes down to storytelling and connecting with your audience, and they want to see who you are as a business owner. So
Mhm.
if you have a really fun dress, like with tulle and like champagne, like let's just do
Yeah.
it and have fun with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Definitely be yourself. I actually feel like in photography for your business, for in brand photography in general, it's the time to amplify who you are, right? Not
Yeah,
just like, don't try to tone it down, don't try to water it down by any means,
compare
but
yourself to others. Yeah. And
yeah,
like,
don't do
oh,
any
this
of
person's wearing
that.
this. It's like, no, like what makes you unique, and kind of lean into that for sure.
Exactly, exactly. I love it. So I like to say that it's easy to start a business, but it requires intentionality and strategy to build a brand. Building a brand is very different than starting a business. And so as we're developing our brands as newer entrepreneurs, and even experienced entrepreneurs, right? Even if you have had an established brand for quite some time and you're looking to update your visual assets, maybe you're going through a brand refresh or update, and you want for that to translate into your brand photography and the visual assets of your brand. So what recommendations do you have, Victoria, for those that are wanting to translate that into their visual assets, into their brand photography through storytelling? How do we zero in on those stories that we want to tell, and how can we translate that into visual assets?
Yeah, for sure. So my biggest recommendation, and I have all my clients do it, is kind of jot down like any ideas, like just brain dump everything. And your photographer should definitely be helping you along with the planning process as well. And so
Mhm.
I guess it comes down to, I think you have to ask yourself questions. Like when you hire a photographer, they can help you plan, but you still need to know who you are as a brand and building that up. So to translate that into, I guess, photography, is just jotting down those ideas, pulling inspiration. I love a good shot list. I feel like I like to go in the flow and have a good time when I'm shooting, and I want my clients to feel comfortable and confident in that. But just going in with a plan is super important. So having that shot list,
Yeah.
down to the outfits, like we mentioned, and just I think you have to have a strong identity as a brand before you hire a photographer. Um, and so the more you can provide to your photographer, the better the photos are going to come out and the better they can help you guide you.
Mm.
Because there'll be times where like I'll be like, hey, so what are you thinking, like indoor, outdoors? And they're like, oh, I have no idea. And I'm like, oh, here are the perks and benefits of both. Or clients are like, um, they just have no idea what they even want to do.
Yeah.
And then they get stuck when it comes to the planning, when it comes to everything else involved. So definitely, I think you have to go into it having that strong identity before hiring a photographer. So hiring like a brand strategist, or yeah, just going along in that
Yeah.
way.
Oh, I think that's such a great tip. And I imagine that those that go into, they kind of have it backwards, right? They start out with, all right, let's have some professional photos taken, but they don't really have a clear idea of who they are as a brand, what the
Right.
story is that they want to share with their audience. What is it that they're trying to communicate with their audience through photography, through the visual assets of their brand? And then they get their pictures back, and I'm sure they're like, this is not what I wanted, or this is not what I thought, but they didn't even really know what they wanted,
Yeah, I
right?
think that's the biggest
Yeah.
biggest kind of like mistake going into brand photography. The photographer will help you plan and come up with the ideas for posing and the shot list, but we don't know you like you do. And
Of
so
course.
I actually have my clients do like a brand questionnaire, and that kind of deep dives into who they are as a brand. Um, and if you don't know those answers, like what makes you stand out from competitors, where you see yourself in 1 to 5 years,
Yeah.
what, like, just literally what makes you stand out in the
What,
crowd. I think if you don't even
yeah.
know those questions, those answers, then it is going to be harder when it comes to kind of building that story, when it comes to like the visual identity of your brand.
Yes, absolutely. And I think there's something so important to highlight there, is that if you are, one, prior to working with a professional brand photographer, get clear on your brand, who you are, why you do what you do, what you're trying to communicate, and then begin your partnership with a brand photographer. And I say partnership because it's not just, hey, I need some photos taken, and they show up the day of the shoot with their camera and they take the photos and email them to you and you're done. There is work done between the time when you decide that you're going to be working together, and the actual day of the shoot, and of course whenever you receive your photos. But something to look out for here is when you are vetting these different photographers, because there are likely a lot of options where you are, when you're going through that, seeing who has produced work prior that is the type of style you're looking for, their values as a business owner, as an artist, are in alignment with yours. And what does their process look like? So get an idea for what that process looks like, because if they're the kind of photographer where you reach out to them, they're like, okay, I'm available on this date, all right, see you then,
Yeah.
that's a red flag, right? Like that is
Right.
something that
Yeah.
should catch, like, why? Okay, so that's not the type of support that I need for brand photography. Maybe for a family photo shoot, right? It's just like a, hey, we just need a family group shot. All right, see you guys at, let's work out the location. I'll see you there. That might, I don't
Yeah.
know, that I might be totally off the mark here, but I think that they're very different when you've got a whole
Yeah.
business and a brand strategy that needs to be communicated and translated into visual assets. There needs to be a partnership between you and the photographer. So finding someone that has experience working with brands and with businesses, and more so personal brands. And I'd love to hear from you, Victoria, on, how to create those visual assets for a personal brand as opposed to more of a general brand. But I think that's something so important to know and to look out for as you're interviewing and trying to find a photographer to work with you in this. Make sure you're looking out for that potential red flag, right? If they're just like, hey, yeah,
Right.
you can
Yeah.
pay and book here and I'll see you on the day. Or are they going to be supporting you through the process of, one, gaining a great understanding of your brand and who you are and what you're using these photos for, and supporting you in the process of identifying or selecting a location.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a studio, if you're looking to rent a residential property and film or capture those photos there. Yeah, I wanted to just highlight that, but I really want to hear from you, Victoria, on personal brand photography and what your tips are for those that are building a personal brand, because a lot of our community includes women entrepreneurs who are building personal brands. Their businesses are rooted in their personal brand. They are the face of their brand. And sometimes we can try to hide, right? And we don't want to show our face, but I
Yeah,
think there's a
a lot
lot
of
of,
people don't want to show their face. Yeah.
yeah, there's so much value in showing your face. Would you agree?
No, yeah, for sure. Everyone, your audience wants to see you, wants to see the person behind the business. And I think brand photography tells your brand story and just deepens your relationship with your ideal audience, your ideal clients. And I think that's the biggest difference between just like portrait photography and personal brand photography, because it's like
Yeah.
you're creating that connection and building that trust. And also it makes you excited to go and share those photos and to finally have photos that represent who you are, right? And so it's like you're excited to like update your website, you're excited to post on Instagram, you're not feeling that overwhelming feeling of like, hey, like I'm going to be speaking at this event and I have 0 headshots, and you're like scrolling through your
Yeah.
phone all stressed out, be like, oh, maybe this, if I crop this person out, it'll work. It's like you're set up for success, and so you can kind of focus on what you need to do. And yeah, your visual identity is strong. It represents who you are. And I think that's the biggest difference. It's like, as you said too, is like building that partnership with a photographer. I love that you said that, because it truly is like, kind of like I always say, like, I'm more than just photographer. I'm not here just to click a button and go home. Like I
Oh
really want to be
yeah.
part. I want to be your creative partner and be collaborative, and help you plan. And like when I first started, I mainly worked with bloggers, and I kind of was kind of like overwhelmed. I was working in New York City, kind of burnt out. And I was like, okay, like where are we meeting? Like what, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
taken me years to kind of be like, okay, so now what do I want to provide to my clients, and what will
Oh,
help support them throughout the process? So um, that's my biggest, yeah, the biggest difference between just like portrait photography and that personal brand photography.
yeah. I love that. I think that's so good because as we gain more experience in our work, and it sounds like you've done this in your work, is you have identified where you can add the most value in your
Yeah.
business partnerships and in your business relationships with clients, with collaborators, and really showing up in that way. And I mean, that's the perk of, and that's one of the big pros to working with someone experienced as opposed to working with someone that is either dabbling or newer to the field and doesn't have that great of experience, because you described yourself in your early days the same way I would
Yeah.
describe myself, which is I was not ready to take the lead and fully step into my power and my unique value that I'm able to add. I was more so following the lead of those that I was working with. And that is not where we can shine, right? As we develop our skills and really identify what is it that I do best and how can I add the most value to this partnership and to this relationship, and stepping fully into that. I also love that you mentioned for events, as when you're joining an event as a speaker or when you're being featured on a podcast, like you don't want to send them your iPhone selfie.
Yeah.
Okay. And what Victoria was saying, y'all, is you want to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. You don't want to be scrambling. You don't want to avoid an opportunity or pass up an opportunity because you don't have professional headshots to share, professional photography and photos of yourself to share with the organizers of the event. So if you are wanting to step into your role as a professional, your identity as a professional, be portrayed as a professional in your field and as a leader in your industry, professional brand photography is a non-negotiable. You need to have this in place, and I highly recommend investing in this, as it is
Yeah.
the visual aspects of your brand. I mean, where is your audience interacting with you, right? They interact with you online through visual channels, right? Your website, your
Mhm.
social media platforms. If you're running ads, all of that is there is a visual aspect to it, right? So if you are building a brand, and developing that brand and increasing brand awareness and building a relationship with your community under your brand, whether it's your personal brand or a standalone brand, either way, professional visual assets are a non-negotiable. As far as, and I want to wrap up this interview with my last two questions. So one is, what is your favorite way and what do you recommend to your clients as far as how they can like get in a great mood, like get in the photo shoot mood, right? And just loosen up and be themselves.
Yeah, for sure. So I always say like kind of what makes you happy. Like, is that reading a book? Is that going on a walk? Is that taking a bath, right? It's like giving
Yeah.
yourself that time to relax and enjoy the process because on the day of the shoot, like all your planning is done, right? You did all the
Yeah.
work, planned, ready to go. So the day leading up and that morning or afternoon, just give yourself time to like enjoy the process, like have fun. Like a lot of people think like photography or photo shoots is like this stressful thing and it can be intimidating, right? And like
Mhm.
I think just going into it with that positive mindset and just being like, you know what, like I am an amazing business owner, a badass, like I
Hell
deserve
yeah.
this. And it's kind of like a way to like kind of like treat yourself to like
Yeah.
this moment. Like you've worked so hard to kind of build and start this brand.
Yes.
And you've done all the work to get you there. And now it's like your photo shoot's kind of a reward in a way. It's like a chance to
Yeah.
like lean into who you are. And like that's my biggest, I always say like lean into who you are and be authentic, but
Yeah.
that's really what it's all about. And I think photo shoots, there should be a lot of fun and yeah, and just kind of like what makes you happy and enjoy it. Just enjoy every moment of it. Because you can feel
Amazing.
kind of, you know, you're in front of the camera, you're like posing and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, I got this. And
Yeah.
my favorite part of the entire process is seeing kind of that transformation from like our first phone call to the day of the shoot where I'm like showing the
Mhm.
back of the camera and like my clients are like, oh my God, is that me? Like, are you
Yeah.
sure that's me? And I'm like, yes, it's you. And it's like just an amazing experience and why I love doing what I do so much.
I love it. Oh, and it shows. I've worked with Victoria in the past, and I've seen your recent work too. And it's so clear that you love what you do, and you're so good at what you do. And so I
Yeah, yeah. And I've
appreciate you
learned
being here.
so much in like even the past year and a half in Dallas and
Yeah.
having that slower, like I came from New York to here and
Mm.
I was like, why am I not booking shoots? Like, why don't I have 4 shoots a day? And then COVID hit, which was hard, really hard, but it
Yeah.
also gave me
Yeah.
time to reflect. And that's when I invested in a business coach and invested in myself more. And I was like, okay, like what value can I bring to my clients? Um, and how can I help them? Because I think a lot of people coming into it don't really know the process and
Yeah.
don't really know where to start. And so
Yeah.
um, hopefully my tips and tricks have helped some of you
Oh,
out there.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I definitely hear you on that, especially in a new chapter, like you moving to Dallas, that's the beginning of a new chapter. I find that in my life, at least, that is at the end of a chapter, beginning of a chapter is prime time reflection time. Like this, that is when you can you have new perspective because you've just experienced something or you're preparing to embark on a new experience or both, right? And so I'm really glad to hear that it's gone well for you here in Dallas. And I'm so happy
Yeah.
that you're here and serving our community here, the business community, the creative community. I'm really excited for what's to come for you here
Thank you.
locally.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what is your big message for us, Victoria? What message would you like to leave our listeners, readers, viewers, audience members with?
Yeah, yeah. Putting yourself out there and scheduling a photo shoot is really such an important way to tell your story and connect with their ideal audience. It's truly crucial in building your brand, achieving who you are as a business owner. It shows your passion, your talent, who you are. So the big message is stay true to who you are as a business owner. I've said that 10 times by now, but it's truly what my big message is don't compare yourself to others. Kind of stick to who you are and go back to the questions of like what makes you unique, what makes you stand out, what makes you different than your competitors. And if you know those answers and stay true to who you are, then your brand photo shoot will be super successful. And obviously just finding, you know, that photographer you connect with and can relate to. And so that's my biggest takeaway is just be authentic and be who you are.
Be true to you. I
Yeah.
love it. I'm
So
here for it.
cliche, but it's true because
Oh, it's so true. Yes.
I always like, yeah, the imposter syndrome is real, right? But it's like
Oh,
just
yes.
staying true to my style and who I am. It's really helpful. And I think that translates and I can relate that to my clients. And so
Mhm.
I think that's the most important part, just kind of stay true to yourself.
I love it. Thank you so much, Victoria, for joining me.
Yeah, of
And I
course.
know that everyone is going to love these tips. Let us know if you have any questions for Victoria. You can leave them in the comments or wherever you're watching or listening to this interview. And we will talk soon.
Yeah, thank
Bye.
you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Talk to you
Of
soon.
course. All right, bye.